Okay, so the biggie, Knoxville, biggest game in 25 years since who did you say Hack beat
Eric
Alabama? Eric
Ainge.
Eric Ainge, but the most hyped game since Peyton Manning, since the Peyton Manning days. The Tennessee Vols defeat the Roman Army 52-49 in a classic. It gave you everything you wanted to see, and we learned every possible thing we could learn. I thought this was going to get ugly quick. Tom Rinaldi told me one time on the sideline, I think we were at the Rose Bowl, Florida State and Oregon, and Jameis slipped and the ball comes out of his hand like up in the sky. It's a reverse fumble. And Rinaldi turns to me and he goes, "The king never just dies. He gets killed." And I thought, holy shit, I'm watching the game. The king never does just die peacefully. They get killed. And when they were down 28-10 tonight to Tennessee, I thought, this is the killing. But the Roman army comes rolling back, but it wasn't enough. Hack, what did you most take away from this game? And like, what did you learn the most about the two teams first? And then we'll go into the quarterbacks.
Well, it was extremely impressive, and I think I'll start with Tennessee. I think the development of that program and where Josh Heupel is, it was a perfect storm for him, and he needed this win for that next step to be much larger than I think he could have ever imagined. Um, and hats off for getting that done. I thought the offense played really well, answered the bell at pretty much every turn of the corner. And I thought the defense showed some balls too, man. I mean, that
Mm-hmm.
whole last drive there, they pretty much went zero for 7, 8 plays in a row. Just sent the house, said, "Hey,
Explain
we're
to
going to match up
people.
with these guys." So
Explain to
cover
people.
zero is
Hack.
basically like they have no high safety. They're going to match up with the guys outside, and they're going to try to get an extra hat on the quarterback outside of what you can protect. And the
Why is
third,
that ballsy against such an
it's
advanced
you're
quarterback
playing
like Bryce Young?
and Bryce Young, you're playing matchup ball, and Bryce Young, the entire game has showed an immense ability to just get out of. He wins those one-on-ones in the open field against pretty much any edge rusher, any defensive lineman that you can bring, any linebacker you can bring. He did it. He extended the plays, made plays, scored touchdowns throughout the entire game doing that. So for that to be like, hey, like we're gonna smoke it if we got it and hang our hat on that, like huge tip of the cap to the Tennessee defensive staff right there, because I personally I don't think I would have gone into that situation 3rd and 10, right on the fringe of field goal range, like, hey man, I'm going zero here. No, dude, I would have. I don't think I could have ever dreamed that
No,
up. So
no.
like, huge tip of the cap to them. And I think it's just kind of a fruition of like Tennessee, like coming from the grinder, right? Because like you talked about Peyton Manning, even Eric Ainge and those types of days, like Tennessee was a
T.
powerhouse. They were
Martin. Yep.
powerhouse program, correct? And they've kind of gone into the dark ages here for a little bit, and now coming back out of it with Josh Heupel, great win, and I think it's huge for them in their development.
Huge for recruiting, huge for the portal. Trevor,
Massive.
what did we massive? Just imagine that now. That style of play, that Ferrari style, NASCAR style of play, big plays, big time skill players. Really, I mean, if you're west of the Mississippi, that program is SC. If you're east of the Mississippi, we thought it was up in Columbus, but they're going to split half those kids now, half those big time kids. Trevor Knight, Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young. Like, what was your impressions of these two? I thought we learned a lot from both tonight.
Let me start here on a macro level. And I just want to tip the cap and kind of extend what you guys were saying about Tennessee. This was a storybook, a children's story, whatever you want to call it, all the way scripted out. Have a great start at Tennessee. College game days coming to town. You're undefeated. Everybody's picking you to win against
Yep.
a
Yep.
team that has been the perennial powerhouse. But so often you're sitting there drawing the pictures and getting ready to publish this book, and the top dog comes in and ruins those dreams. And to have all
Mm-hmm.
of that build up and to still
Mm-hmm.
go out there and get it done and close the book and
Mm-hmm.
publish this thing, I thought was the biggest takeaway with what Tennessee did, and tip of the cap to those guys. Now, as far as the quarterbacks go, I was sitting here watching this game with no allegiance to either school. just giddy watching these guys play football. And I want to start with Bryce Young. Bryce Young is coming off of an injury, but I can say this: that will not be an excuse for Tennessee or for Bama saying, "Oh, well, Bryce Young was hurt. If this, if that." That dude came out and played some of his best football that I've ever seen. He was making all the throws. He was out there being the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. And him against Hendon Hooker, I mean, that was two guys saying, "Hey, look, I'll see you in New York at the end of the year," going back and forth. And it was almost this feeling like, all right, whoever gets the ball last is going to win this game. And Hendon Hooker going through the transfer portal or however he got to Tennessee, stepping up against George the Roman Army and the previous year's Heisman Trophy winner and standing toe-to-toe and getting the win. That dude deserves, regardless of what goes on the rest of the season, that dude deserves a ticket to New York based off of his play tonight. I thought it was unbelievable.
Great point. In from our producer, Dagan Hughes, Alabama broke its own historic record, 17 penalties tonight. And that's not just under the Coach Saban Alabama Tide. That's all time, 17 penalties for 130 yards. But they still find themselves tie ball game going down the back stretch in the fourth quarter if they had to climb it from behind 28-10. Fellas, I was so impressed. First of all, Hendon Hooker, like, guys are big, but you're big time on stages like this tonight. Like, you're big, don't doubt. We see it. But if Tennessee would have lost, fans, they're not throwing stuff on the field. We lost to the Roman Army. We'll get them next time. We still get a New Year's Day bowl. But to win, to take that momentum and knock out a giant when they're also hot, no. I thought that was huge. Hendon Hooker was huge. His wide receiver, I don't have his name, 5 touchdowns on 6 grabs. That's some Travis Kelce type stat line right there. But Hendon Hooker was big, but just equal, as you both said it, Bryce Young. And it wasn't just an injury. It's on your throwing shoulder. It's on your throwing shoulder.
George, that's the one thing too. I don't mean to cut you off. Here's the one thing too, though, is I said this too Thursday. Like, if I going into this game, the way this Alabama team was shaped up, like the way the defense was playing, all this stuff, like, to me, if I'm Tennessee and I have the high-powered offense, like, I'm making Bryce Young beat me. I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs out of the game. I'm forcing Bryce Young to beat me, and he exceeded expectations and then some. But but the thing is, the crazy thing is we sit here and acknowledge that people are going to overlook that, but he played phenomenal. He played above and beyond what you could have ever asked him to play. And that shows you how much Hendon Hooker and that offense at Tennessee actually showed up and met the challenge as well. Because if you're going to say, yo, Bryce Young, you got to beat me, reigning Heisman Trophy winner, you got to beat me, you got to show up as well, and you got to play out of your mind and into your realm and into your realm of thought processes and things like that. And I think Tennessee did that as well, and ultimately it worked out that way, and it was great for college football because we saw just a duel for the ages. And
listen, I want to chime in here as well. I want to give a tip of the cap to Bryce Young again, very similar to the national championship game when we were all together in Indy. This is a guy that's on the road in a hostile environment, and you know what you're going to get from him. Even when he's got an injury in his throwing, like, that is, he deserves the Dr. Pepper commercials that he's already in. He deserves every penny of that because he is absolutely spectacular, which I think gives more credit to Tennessee. Now, real quick, if A&M ends up converting on the last play last week, that's when you could say, well, they didn't have Bryce Young and this and that. And so this game, you can't say that. You have to give all the credit to Tennessee because you saw the best in Bryce Young.
Because Bryce Young played winning football, even in a loss. That's an anomaly sometimes. But you could still play winning football, and it doesn't come up for you. And tonight reminded me of last year when they played Auburn, and he had the 290-plus yard drives where you have to have it. Auburn only gave him 60, 70 yards rushing as a team all day. We must get through Auburn to get a chance at Georgia, and he does it in the fourth quarter. I think he's college football's best general, but they have a lot to clean up. Those 17 penalties. The defense really got exposed, and I'm watching that game and thinking in my mind, is this Ohio State and Bama? Is this what this looks like? Because to me, Tennessee offensively, um, it looks like the similar animal to Ohio State. The one's a Bengal tiger and one's a Siberian. Like now we have two tigers. They can both move and maul you. So the Roman army goes down. 52-49 Tennessee. Fellas, where should they rank? Just watching ball, just looking at it quickly. Where should Tennessee rank when we all get up tomorrow?
I don't think it's crazy to say that they jump to 3 and just swap. Like, I think that's probably a fair statement.
Yeah,
I don't think you can.
I agree with that. I mean, the only argument would be that you put Michigan at 3, right? And then put Tennessee right behind them, just because they had a big win too, right? I don't
Correct.
know. Yeah.
Correct.
So
Alabama stays in the top 5. Yes, they lost by a field goal expiring on the road to another top 10 team. That can't take. Yeah, correct. By my man McGrath. That was the heavyweight championship tonight. Well, that was the heavyweight championship down in the South.